It's Outstar with Tim Shafer on Skype, and we are ready to start playing Broken Age for you. Hello, Tim!
Hello there. Nice to be here. Thanks for
I
having me.
I hope you can all hear Tim and me well. We will have to adjust our audio perhaps at the very beginning of the stream. But yeah, let me just show our faces to you guys. Hello! And yeah, I think everything is working right now. Tim, before we start, I gotta ask you, I mean, this is the day. I mean, the day happened actually not today, but a day ago.
It's
But
the week. It's
yeah,
the
it's the
week.
week. It's the week. So, how do you feel? I mean, the Act 2 is finally released. We are anticipating it really, really highly. And as the gamers, we are just right now relieved and happy that we can play it again. But, I mean, for you, how is it? Is it like excitement, relief, or just a normal day of a game dev?
It's a little all three. It's really exciting because we are really happy with how the game worked out. We got to take a lot of time to polish it and get it done the way we wanted to, and so we're really excited for people to play it and have all the see all the play all the puzzles and meet all the characters and just see all the stuff we've been working on for the past year for Act Two. It's a relief because people were like, "Are they ever going to finish this game?" And so it's a relief to be say, "Yeah, here's the proof. It's the game. You can play it." So that is a big relief.
I just can't wait. And by the way, before going into the game, I have to ask you because there is a lot of input from the internet that riddles in Act 2 are harder than they were in the Act 1. And I heard that you actually opened the hotline for the riddles, for the hints.
Yeah, we did.
How did
We
that
did
happen?
It was one of the ideas that our, I believe, our community manager or else someone in our, or Greg from publishing, we're thinking back to the old LucasArts games. We had this 1-800 Star Wars number you could call, and people would, back then they'd pay like $1 a minute to get a hint, but they would call and get hints for the game, and so people would do it when their kids would do it when their parents weren't home, so they could get a hint on Indiana Jones or Monkey Island. And the person who answered the phone was right outside my office, so I would hear this woman named Tabitha Toasty. She would answer the phone and she would say, "Hello, LucasArts Hotline, can I help you?" Every 5 minutes outside my office door, and so I was very in touch with the hint line, but I kind of missed it, and so we bought this special phone, an old flip phone, and we gave out the number. It was like something hexapal, the number, and we just did an hour like a live stream where we answered people's hints, and some people just called to say I like the game, and then a lot of people called with actual hints. And it was really fun because no one could, people were surprised when they called it and we actually picked up, but it was really fun. And then afterwards we went out to celebrate and go out drinking and celebrate the launch of the game. And we just turned on the phone and it kept ringing. And so while we were toasting the game's completion, we were answering hints from fans, and it was great to actually hear the voices of people playing the game and talk to them. And so it was kind of like just like the whole process was very community involved. It was great to have our launch day be very community involved as well.
It's actually a very good idea and a very retro one. When I was discussing with my friends, we were actually thinking that you are really into just enhancing this classical adventure game feeling that we had when we were youngsters, and this is wonderful. And for the guys on chat, what is my plan for today is while talking to Tim, I will quickly do one story of the Act 1 because I think I can manage it for the stream, and then I will move to Act 2 so I can actually show you the whole story. Please, I have to mention that there will be spoilers ahead. So
oh my god, don't watch this. Anybody.
Yeah, don't watch it. If you actually don't know Act 1, then please don't watch it. I'm not
You
able
can pause
to...
it. You can just leave this window open.
Yes,
Pause it.
exactly. Or you can just hear, the conversation between us, but don't watch the screen. So I am going into the new save and starting a new game, and I will go with Vela probably. I'm not sure though. I'm not sure. Chat, what is your input? And by the way, Tim, do you have a preference? Do you prefer the story of Shay or Vela, or is it just super subjective?
It's really the choice of both of them. It's really the stories of how they weave together. Oh, so you're gonna do Act 1 and then also Act 2 later? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I was thinking about maybe doing the Vela story in full. I mean, I enjoy both stories a lot. I'm not sure if there is anything better or worse in each of those stories because they are just magnificent. So I will probably go with Vela, and then
That's good.
and then I will continue to the Act 2. So yeah, I will just do it, and while doing it, I will ask you more questions because I am really curious as a game dev myself. I mean, I'm a youngster in game dev, but for me it's super interesting think how did the game industry change since the very moment you started doing adventure games. And as we all know, you were after Monkey Island, you were after Grim Fandango, and all the magnificent games. And how it was different to do Broken Age in comparison to those old classics.
Yeah, it was interesting because back then we were kind of in a little bubble. There wasn't really internet, and I mean, there wasn't much of an internet, especially there was none during Monkey Island. And you were kind of you left with just what people in the office thought about the game for most of it. You know, you'd bring in your friends and family and have them play the game and test it, but you would wait for a few months for a magazine review to come out before you got any feedback on anything. So it was really interesting in that you were really making games for yourselves or what you thought people would like. Nowadays, especially with Broken Age, we were making it with the community involved from the very beginning. So it was really we're really aware of what people were thinking about every piece of concept art and every, you know, we put up a bunch of concept art for Vela, and we heard people saying they liked it or they didn't like it. And it was a different process because in some ways it helped us know that we were making a game that these people would like because I knew they liked adventure games. But also we had to kind of like if we got conflicting opinions from them, we had a way like, well, okay, some of them like this, some of them don't like it. What do we like? And they're really trusting us to make this decision. So it was like making that decision in public was a whole new experience for us, for sure.
It's wonderful, and also because of the crowdfunding, I think that you, from the very beginning, you had very much big input from the community of gamers. And did you, because as I know, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea of the whole game, the Broken Age, it actually popped up and it was made up during the Kickstarter campaign. It was made up later. First of all, you just wanted to do the adventure game that will capture the classical them of the old point and clicks, but then after the community input, the Broken Age appeared. Wasn't it like that?
Yeah, I really wanted to, you know, the project was primarily a documentary project at first. You know, we wanted to document what it's like to make a game, and so I purposely didn't start with an existing game. I just sat down on the first day and just started writing in my notebook because I wanted to show that's how I do it. Because there is a lot of mystery about like where do ideas come from, and people think they can't make up ideas, but I've had that same feeling too. I feel like I don't have any ideas a lot of time, but then I sit down with like a notebook, like here's my notebook, and I sit there with a pen. It's not very magical, and I just start writing in the notebook, and I just write. We do call free writing, where we just write. You can't stop writing, even if you're writing stupid stuff, and you write for like an hour. And ideas just come, and you don't realize you have them, but they just came out. And so that's how Broken Age came to me.
That's really, really great. And I gotta say that making this documentary is a very, very good idea. And I watched the whole documentary. I think the one of the last episodes was actually released some very close time ago, isn't it?
Yeah, we just put out the latest episodes, and now it's caught up. The private backer documentary is now caught up with the free version that's on YouTube. And that was episode 19, where we actually we called Last Call, where we finished the game. We have a wrap party on the beach.
Yeah, and the very beginning of this episode, as I remember, if I watched this one, was pretty depressive because it was about the closure of the secret project that you conducted. And I wonder, because a lot of people think that game development is really just the dream job, and everything is there very easy and colorful and entertaining. But of course, we have to handle with crunch. We have to handle with a lot of negative things, like, for example, working under the pressure. And you, as a person who has such a big experience in this industry, do you have any tips of how to overcome that? Or do you have your personal, for example, adventures, how you tackled this problem?
But yeah, it is true. I mean, I think it is a dream job for a lot of people, but I think that's what helps us get through the hard times. You know, there are always realities about money and time and your personal life that come into play, and you never can really get rid of those things. But you know, that's why most people who make games are really in it just because they love games so much, not because it's a way to get rich or because it's a way to have an easy life, for sure. Some people have found a way to have an easy life through games, of course.
Yeah,
some people
exactly.
have done really, really well. And most of us aren't doing that badly. I mean, they're just have these moments of, because people who make games care so much. They care so much about what they're making that they will stay all night and work on it. Even though like there's not much time left, and there's a lot of hardships that will stick with it, and I think that can kind of encroach on their quality of life. Like they might lose sleep, they might start getting sick, and they might not see their families, and bad things can happen. So I guess we have all done that a lot, especially when we're younger. But as we get older, I think we learn to balance our life, our quality of life, a lot more with the game. So that we need to be, rested and happy.
Of course.
And we actually need to go out and experience life, and go out and see things in the world, not just sit in our offices all day and program and do art. Like we need to actually go out and take in other people's art and go see movies and go to museums and go travel the world, because those are where the new ideas come into your head that let you make great stuff.
It's pretty hard to find the balance, and did you manage to find the balance in your life? Because you're a very productive person. You're making, the legendary game after legendary game, and how do you actually handle your work hours with the usual life? Are you trying to, for example, stop yourself from work from time to time?
Yeah, I mean, definitely when you have a child or you have a kid, it helps you because you have to go home. Like you have to go home at 6, or because someone needs help. You need to go home and do your share of you want to be with your child. So anyway, it forces you to like not accidentally spend the night at work, which you can do when you're a young single person. You can be like, oh, you look up at the clock and like it's 10 o'clock. What am I doing here? It's 10 o'clock. Oh my God. When you have a kid, it forces you to kind of put that in perspective. But also, there's a realization that crunching is not very effective. It's not a really great way to get good work out of people. So, because you end up staying till 3 a.m. You start to like, I'm just going to come in at noon, and since I'm going to be here all night, maybe I'll spend some time playing pool and doing, I don't know. You end up becoming like you're not. You may think you're working 8 more hours a day, but you're really just working on an average like maybe 3 or 4 more hours, or getting like, Anyway, it feels like you're really overworked, and you're actually getting less quality work. You're making more mistakes because you're entering bugs into the game because you're so sleepy. And
exactly.
In general, it's much better to have, come in early, be productive, don't goof off, and get your work done, and then go home, and then have a life outside of work. I think a lot of people who worked in the industry for many years have learned that secret.
Exactly. We have first questions from the chat appearing. By the way, guys, if you want to ask any questions to Tim, please tag them with the Q at the very beginning, and then I can see them well. And Uncle Jeet says, my 8 years old, he's here watching with me, and he'd like to ask, Tim, what got you into making point-and-click adventures, like originally back in the Dark Ages?
In the dark ages of the 80s and 90s.
Exactly.
I always played adventure games. Those were the first games I really loved, but they were all text adventures. I played Zork and all the Scott Adams adventures, Savage Island. I still have my I still have my adventure series from Scott Adams on the Atari 800. He made these games here's the floppies.
Wonderful.
Yay. My floppy collection of games.
Oh, Verbatim. I remember this company.
Yeah, you remember these?
Young years, yeah. I'm a 90s kid, but I do remember it.
These were kind of, to me, I think, I don't know if they're before Infocom, but I played them before Infocom. There were games like Savage Island and Pirates Adventure, and you would just type 2 words like open door, and they were great. And I played things like Deadline and Wishbringer and Spell something or other, and all the great old Infocom games. So I loved text adventures, and then I went to college, and then I studied computer science and creative writing, and that helped me get the job at LucasArts. And LucasArts was, Ron Gilbert was there, and he was just about to start Monkey Island, so it was a really perfect timing for me to get in there. And I had never, I actually had studied AI and stuff in college, and I thought I'd be making games that involved a lot of AI and tech like that. But Lucas was really about these more scripted, cinematic experiences. So that was just the kind of way that I was led into that, doing point-and-click graphic adventures.
And I remember from one interview, I think, that you actually said something very, very funny about your first interview for LucasArts, that you actually said the wrong name of a game you like, and it was a pirated version of that game. Isn't that true?
I told them my favorite game of theirs at the time was Ball Blaster, which is a game I loved on the Atari 800, where you it was a kind of soccer game on a chessboard, and I loved it. And the guy was like, "That's what it was called when it was pirated. His actual name is Ball Blazer," and I was so embarrassed. But then he's like, "Well, send in your resume and a cover letter, and in your cover letter, describe your ideal job." And because I felt like I'd already blown it and lost the job, I just kind of went nuts, and I made this cover letter that looked like a graphic adventure of me trying to find my ideal job, and I drew little pictures, and ridiculous text adventure with some art in it, and I guess I got their attention, and that's probably why I got the job.
Wow, that's an amazing story, really. And we have another question from Akana. Question for Tim. What is working with Peter Chan like? He seems so versatile, from Monkey Island to Day of the Tentacle to Grim Fandango, and it all seems like completely different art styles, and it's all gorgeous. So, how is Peter Chan?
He is a master. He is an amazing creative talent, and he is versatile. We always work with artists who, you like to work with artists who can do any style. Like Peter Chan can do, this kind of stuff he did with Day of the Tentacle. If you look at Day of the Tentacle versus Grim Fandango, right, that's the same art, lead artist, and that's crazy to think about. But the thing I really like working about him is he's like me in that he's kind of fascinated with where ideas come from and how you can get yourself to come up with the best ideas. Because a lot of his process is about kind of priming your mind for the process. Like, he loves to do a lot of research, tears pictures out of magazines, he pastes them all over his wall, he surrounds himself with it, and then he always tries to push himself to do the opposite of what is obvious. He really doesn't like to do the typical version of whatever you're doing. If you're doing a fantasy story and you're drawing an elf with a sword, he'd be like, what's the opposite of that? How can we turn that around? And he would literally turn his art upside down sometime and look at it and draw it again upside down and see how that would change his shape. He put it on a Xerox, like a photocopier, and he would move the paper while he's copying it, so he'd get all these skewed versions of his own art, and then he'd be like, maybe that's better. So he's really into that thing that I think people who live off their creativity have to do, which is to push themselves to come up with more and more creative stuff all the time.
Wonderful. And we have another question from Ender Freaks. Tim, what is your favorite game? Personally, I love Psychonauts. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if it's actually the favorite game that you created or your favorite game in general, but both of those informations would be really, really nice to get.
I love the games that have made a big impact on me, besides those text adventures I was mentioning. Like, I really like crazy games like Katamari Damacy. You play Katamari, and Eco, and Okami. I think there's like this period of like PlayStation games from Japan that I really found really inspiring. Before that, I loved like Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, and weird things like Blastcore. Did you ever play Blastcore on the N64? Anyway, so that's like a whole bunch of games that I like. Last year I really liked Hohokum. I played a lot of Hohokum. And stuff like Mordor. I'm playing Bloodborne now. But like I always go to my favorite game of all time. I still pick Katamari just because there's really nothing like it. And I like any game that takes you to its own world. It just takes you to its own special place.
Well, it's wonderful, and we have another question from Shallard. What was the most tiresome game you ever had to work on? I mean, we've seen a lot of tiresome moments in the documentary when you showed us how you made the Broken Age. But I think this is a process of making every game. But did you actually struggle on any of the titles you made?
Yeah, I mean, all of them have been hard, except ever since I think the last easy one was Day of the Tentacle. That was kind of easy, and then we added 3D art and we added voice and localization and stuff to games, and that made them all more complicated. And then they just next gen art anyway. They got more and more complicated. I mean, tiresome is kind of a word that implies like it sounds less rewarding than it actually is. But definitely the hardest work I think we ever did was Psychonauts, because we were starting a company at the same time, forming a team, making an engine from scratch, and then trying to make a game that we'd never made the type of game we'd never made a platformer before. And the hours that the team pulled on that game were just, I don't even want to mention them because they're totally illegal, I'm sure. And but we all believed in the game, and so we all stuck it out, and we finished it, and we're really happy and proud with it. And we all swore afterwards never to do that again. Like, let's never work to 5 in the morning.
I mean, it's pretty peculiar because the young game developers, the people who wants to make their first game in their little gaming history in the career, they usually aim today. When we have Unity, we have UDK, Unreal 4. We are usually aiming for platformer games because they seem to be the easier to make. But do you actually consider them harder to make than point and clicks, or is it just a matter of the features and the extra things you want to add to the game?
Well, Psychonauts was kind of like a point and click adventure and a platformer put together, so we had to do a lot of the same stuff you do for adventure games, like have nice facial animation and good cut scenes. A lot of platformers don't have that kind of like cinematic adventure game type stuff in them, and so we really had the difficulty of both putting that one game. But platformers, like a 3D platformer, involves a lot of detailed finesse to the character. Like that character Raz, he can run and walk, and he can hit a ledge and mount it and climb it and grab it with his hands and hang and go on a tightrope and go up a ladder and swing on a pole. And there's like that's a lot of work for a lot of people. And if it doesn't feel just right, people will it just won't be fun at all to play. So we had to put a lot of work into like tuning all that stuff. And then there's level design, and the cameras are really tricky to program. And so 3D platformers are definitely hard to do if you're. But a lot of game development, a lot of the secrets are really about what you choose to take on and what you choose not to. Like if you look at a game like Journey, it's also technically kind of a platformer, but it doesn't like. They made a lot of really smart decisions. Like the character doesn't have any mantling, or mantling what you call it. Like if there's a ledge, and if you jump up onto it and then you grab it and then you pull yourself up on it, like platform characters. The Journey character doesn't do that, but it doesn't feel weird because he or she doesn't have any arms. Like his arms are tucked inside.
Yeah, exactly.
So because they don't have arms, you don't expect them to grab a ledge, and it's brilliant because you never feel cheated when they don't grab a ledge. You're just like, oh, I better fly higher and get above it. So you make these choices, and you can eliminate a lot of work for yourself, and also make your game more unique, and not have the player feel cheated. So smart decisions early on can decide whether or not your game is easy or hard to make.
I have to read out for you one thing that our regular poster actually wrote on chat right now. He's called Metal Addict, and he wrote, "Tim, I just wanted to thank you for countless hours of quality fun. And it is people like you who make games timeless works of art. Thank you. Grim Fandango and Brutal Legend are my favorite games ever. Especially for Brutal Legend, that was a love letter to metal fans like me. I discovered so many great songs and bands, and I did not know before. So yeah, we have a metal fan that is actually..."
That's awesome. Metal, you can't kill the metal. Here, will this make everyone sick if I move my webcam? I can show you my metal up on my wall. I still have all my albums. I got them all signed by Lemmy and Ozzy and even Dio and Rob Halford, and that was a dream come true for me too, because those are all my old albums from when I was a teenager.
Wow.
And I got to get them signed by my idols, and got to meet them all. So
and Dio actually.
Yeah, we had a recording session with Dio, and we got to meet with him. We recorded him at Skywalker Ranch. And Skywalker Ranch is where I worked when I worked on Monkey Island and stuff at LucasArts. And they still have a sound studio, Skywalker Sound, and we still have friends there, and so we use them for voice recording sometimes. And so it was really strange, because I hadn't been at the Skywalker Ranch in a while, and I worked there, 1989. So here I am at my first job site, and I'm touring Ronnie James Dio around and showing him, this is where I used to work, and that's the lightsaber from Star Wars, and here's this wood came. It was a really surreal experience.
Really amazing. And do you actually
thank you, Metal Addict.
Metal Addict, we both thank you, because I gotta thank you for being there for us, watching us all the time. You're the best. And Tim, I gotta say that I was actually raised on the games you made, because I am a 90s kid, and my older brother showed me the games when I was very little. So he played Monkey Island when our parents were watching. He was playing Monkey Island. When they were out, he was playing Doom or Alone in the Dark. But I think the Monkey Island was really the game of my childhood, so big thanks for that, and it was really amazing. And
thanks for playing.
I gotta say, now as a game dev, I'm really interested in the idea you introduced. I don't know if it was in your office, but under your wings, the idea of Amnesia Fortnite and the games that were created because of that. Are you planning on doing something like that in the future? And how do you remember the past in the Amnesia Fortnite? And do you think it was a great idea? Would you do it again?
Yeah, I really loved we do it almost every year, and it started in the middle of the middle of Brutal Legend, because Brutal Legend was 4 years, and I love heavy metal and I love being in that world, but I felt like the team needed a break from it, and so we took 2 weeks and we forgot what we were working on, and that's where the name comes from. Just forget about Brutal Legend for a second. In 2 weeks, we split the team of 60 people into 4 teams, and gave some project leaders a chance to make their own games. But you had 2 weeks to make a whole game, and it sounded crazy at the time, because we weren't that, there wasn't that huge game jam culture that there is now. Like now, game jams happen worldwide at the drop of a hat. There's probably 5 game jams going on right now, and everyone's jamming all the time, which is awesome. And but back then, I wasn't aware of other game jams. It just seemed like I actually got the idea from a story I heard from a film director who did this in the middle of one of his movies. He took a break. It was Wong Kar-wai took a break from filming Ashes of Time, and he went in for 2 weeks and he filmed a bunch of footage and improvised, and he made footage that he used in Hong Kong Express and Fallen Angels. And I thought, oh, that was a great example. I should do that with my team. So we did it, and we came up with what became prototypes for Stacking and Costume Quest and Once Upon a Monster and Iron Brigade and Middle Manager of Justice have all come from this process of like just trying to make the game really quick. Because the great thing about it, like people who have done game jams, they know that the great thing about it is that it turns off that sensor in your head that worries too much about, is this the right game for me to make? Will anyone like this game? Will anyone buy this game? I just don't know. You know, you have that voice in your head that paralyzes you and stops you from getting any work done. So if you're like, look, we just have a week, we just have 2 weeks, we have 24 hours, we've got a weekend, whatever your time limit is, it forces you to be like, okay, let's just go for it, let's just do it. And it also forces you to only pick like one gameplay mechanic instead of doing, you know, Brutal Legend had every single gameplay mechanic in the world in it. And
yeah, exactly.
It forces you to do something like Stacking, which has one gameplay mechanic, stacking inside of other people, inside of other Russian dolls. So I think it's amazing, and also the team just gets so happy when we do it, just because it's so focused. Everyone, it's not these long deadlines way out in the future. It's like, we're gonna get this done in a week. Let's do it, and it's new and it's fresh, and I love it. I recommend it to anyone.
Coming back to the documentary you did, there is a question from Uncle Jit. My question for Tim is, how has the response been to making the documentary available to public, non-backers on YouTube? Do you think it has helped calm down some of the more vocal detractors?
You know, I don't know. I mean, we asked our backers first if it was okay, and some of them didn't like it, but most of them overwhelmingly thought it was a good idea, that we should do it, and so we did it, and people have been really enjoying it. I mean, there's people who don't like what you're doing no matter what you do, and they don't tend to change their mind, and let alone be willing to watch 20 hours of documentary about someone they don't like. So, I mean, they've actually done studies about when people have an opinion about something, if you present them with contradictory, evidence, they tend to just dig down deeper into their own opinions. So, I really can't convince real detractors, but I think people who are open to just finding out more information, people kind of in the middle who are not really dug into any sort of entrenched viewpoint, watch it. And I think more importantly, they just learn that video games are made by people just like them, who are, they're human beings and they make the same mistakes they make. And also that, I'm hoping some people will be inspired to make their own games by watching the documentary. Even though it looks like a tough struggle, I think it shows that the people who are doing it are just like them and they could do it too.
Exactly, and I read in a recent interview that you actually said, I think to The Guardian, that you will repeat this whole adventure with the crowdfunding and Kickstarter again. And are you actually planning to base your future games more, I don't know if on a crowdfunding, but on a community input, on more on what players would want to see? And do you actually have plans to launch new projects in the near future?
Well, of course, we're always launching new projects, and Broken Age just finished, and Massive Chalice is finishing soon, and so we will be starting new secret projects, and I definitely, because we have multiple projects, we find multiple revenue sources for them. One, we have some stuff that we do with publishers still, we have stuff we do with private investors, and then we have stuff that we do with crowdfunding, and I think crowdfunding is a part of it forever, because there's certain kinds of games you can only make with crowdfunding, like basically the games that that there is a group out there who is really interested in seeing, even if maybe a big publisher wouldn't invest in it. I think knowing that people want it, I think it makes it, there's things you can do only in crowdfunding, and so we'll definitely do it again in the future.
And the question that is a little bit similar to the question about how you started your own adventure, but I think it's really interesting for us all. If you had to give one piece of advice to someone just starting the game development, what would you say?
My old advice used to be about how to get a job and stuff, and now it doesn't seem like you need to worry about how to get a job. You can just download Unity or Unreal and just make a game. So I feel like it's maybe almost too obvious now to people that you can just do it. Just download one of those things and watch YouTube videos to learn how to do it and just make your own game. So I guess my advice would be, outside of that, is to not forget about other forms of art, like great books and great movies and going to museums and stuff like that. Keep yourself inspired and don't forget about taking care of the thing inside your head that is where your creative ideas come from.
Exactly.
Feed the head.
And Saibov is asking a pretty neat question. Tim, are you planning to celebrate today's 20 years of Full Throttle somehow?
We did. That kind of snuck up on me. Someone else tweeted about it, or Vice Magazine did an article about it.
You didn't know this, actually.
It is 20 years. Like, we were so focused on, like, Day of the Tentacles 15, and wait, that can't be right. Day of the Tentacles not 15. Grimm's 15. Something just 15. Oh, Psychonauts was 10.
All
so
the anniversaries.
Like, all these anniversaries keep coming up, and Full Throttle just. I can't believe it's 20 years because it was. Oh my God. I mean, it was just. It doesn't seem like.
With all those games you're making, you will actually never run out of the chances to celebrate.
Yes. We have cake and champagne every week now because there's always some anniversary going on.
Yeah, I saw this.
Yeah, how can we celebrate it? Do you have any ideas on how to celebrate it? I can show you my keychain, my Corley Motors keychain.
Whoa!
This is the only one in existence, as far as I know. I don't know anyone else who has one of these. We made these for marketing, and then that was it. And now it's got keys on it.
Amazing. I mean, I saw that during this little hint line, which was open for the people playing Broken Age Act 2, you actually had a launch party then. And were there any people like trying to, for example, call you and troll you, or maybe were you, after during the party, were you partying so hard that the conversations turned out into something very unexpected, or how was it?
You mean the conversations with people who called?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, everyone was super nice. Everyone was really great. We have the best community. We have people who actually take the time to call tend to be people who really love, your games, or they really want to make a connection with you. And so, yeah, it was just nothing but fun. It was surprising. We had someone call from Israel, and we had people call from all over the world. And some people just wanted to chat. Some people think they found bugs, but most of the people some of them just wanted hints, and it was fun to be able to give hints.
And coming back to the actual game, because people are giving some nice feedback. Some people on the chat here haven't got a chance to play the game before. So we got an input from Duplo Duplex. The art style is gorgeous and the animation suits it incredibly well. How did you, or Double Fine as general, come to decide to using this style?
Oh, well, one of the first things I thought about when I wanted to make an adventure game was that I wanted to do a game that was inspired a lot by by the art of a particular artist named Nathan Stapley, who's been working at Double Fine since the very beginning. And I just love his art, and I always feel that, when you make a 3D version of it, you always lose a little something. Mm-hmm. I mean, 3D artists can be beautiful, of course, but there's something about his painterly style that I wanted to do and capture in a game. And so that's where the very beginning, back when we were going to make a game for just $300,000 like we asked for on Kickstarter, it was going to be just bagel painting and maybe a Flash game, a simple game like that. But when we got funded as well as we did, we started making a bigger game, and we had to bring in other artists to help. And the trick was to really kind of get them all looking like they're painting in this one art style. It was a challenge, but it turned out really well. But it was pretty feathers on her. Well painted.
I saw the actual footage of making of those artworks, and I saw that the artists were painting them traditionally. But were there also digital painting used, or did you just scan this and wanted to put a little digital, penning or anything in the game, or as you planned?
They're both. I mean, I think the artists all do a lot of digital painting. Even Bagel, they make their own brushes, and they paint in Photoshop, and they use like a Wacom tablet or a Cintiq monitor to paint, right there. And
I actually see you right now on my Cintiq tablet, because I'm using it as my second monitor right now. So
that's great.
You're a Cintiq habitant.
So they do a lot of digital. Most of the hand painted stuff where they actually use acrylics and oils and watercolor is mostly concept art from the art jams, where we make make them all. We don't make them all. We invite all the artists to sit in a room together, and then we lock them in for a day, and they all just paint and draw together. And
you just throw the food inside and wait for them to do something.
Yeah. We open the door for a second, we throw in a bunch of raw meat, and then we shut the door. And then
Wonderful. The best management of company I've ever heard of. But, the question from Garrett is: would you like to or ever work with Ron Gilbert again?
Ron did come and work at Double Fine and made the Cave, the awesome game Cave, and now he's doing his own adventure, Thimbleweed Park. He did a Kickstarter for that. But Ron was the guy who my first boss in the games industry, and always had a huge impact on the games I make. Sure, but we've done our own thing for so long. I think it's great that we both get to make games, and we're still friends.
Okay, wonderful. And let me check out the other questions right now from the chat, because people are popping the questions like crazy now. And Tim, what is your plan to ensure a space-based DF9 scenario never happens again?
Well, yeah, we've done early access a few different times. We're doing it right now for Massive Chalice, so we did it for Hack and Slash, and we did it for Space Base. And they're all different, but I think a lot of that, the different ways to approach early access. One is you have all the money to do a game, and you're just using early access to get feedback. And a lot of it is like, okay, we're going to extend our game. We have a game that's done. Like with Space Base, it had a budget similar to Hack and Slash. It was a smaller game. And we were like, let's extend this by putting it up on early access. And it went for a whole year in early access, and then it ended. But it was very, there's a big difference in what how some people thought that was going to go and how we thought it was going to go, and it led to a lot of animosity. And then it happened to be right at the right point where it was jumped on by a group of people supporting let's just say an ideology. I don't know. Anyway, it was bad timing. It was bad timing for that whole thing to happen. It was really hard to actually talk to the people who actually played the game about it. So it was a great learning experience, and I think that the approach we've been using in our other games is very, very different, and I don't think we would find ourselves in that position again anytime soon.
But yeah, coming back to happy topics, Uncle Jit is not really asking a question, but just writing, but I will ask a question later. But I'd really like to say how much I appreciate the family-friendly nature of Double Fine's game. I've played almost all of them with my kid, and as he's grown up, he turns 9 next month, and it's really a great thing to be able to share a game with your child. They're family-friendly without being kid-centric, fun for everyone. So Tim, do you actually think of the kids, your kids for example? Are you playing your game with them after you make it?
Well, that's really nice to hear. I really like hearing that. We always aspired to, like the whole time we've been making games, we've always the people I work with always have a similar kind of taste, which is that we love stylized art that people think of as like child's art, like Chuck Jones cartoons, like
of course.
Old Warner Brothers, Bugs Bunny cartoons. They're for kids, but there's a whole bunch of humor in there that's obviously for adults. And not that it's like dirty or anything, but just that it's for more, when you're watching a Bugs Bunny cartoon, there's jokes that adults get that kids don't get. And similar with like a Pixar cartoon, like a cartoons. Well,
yeah,
Pixar
exactly.
movie. And it's something we've always been drawn to. And then I remember I was just starting out to make Brutal Legend. And Brutal Legend, I was like, okay, there's going to be a different kind of game. There's going to be decapitations and bloods, and there's going to be women in fur bikinis or something. I don't know. There's going to be shockingly different. It's going to be metal. And how's that going to fit? Are people who played Psychonauts going to be offended? And I just happened to be reading this letter. Someone wrote me a handwritten letter, and the guy was saying how much fun it was to play Psychonauts with his 10-year-old son. And I was like, oh, that's nice. They played Psychonauts together. I wonder if they could play Brutal Legend together. And at that moment, that's why we put both a gore and a profanity filter in Brutal Legend. When you start playing, it's like right before you chop off the first guy's head, it's like, how do you feel about blood? And you can turn it off if you want. And then no one's limbs pop off, and you don't see any blood if you play it with that on. And also, you can choose to bleep out the dialogue that's offensive to some people, and it even covers up. When Eddie flips off to Viculus, it covers up his finger with like a little profanity filter. And I actually always play with that on just because I think the dialogue is funnier when you bleep out the swear words, just because you imagine an even worse swear word in your head. But anyway, so we want to just have that option. Like, I don't feel like you need to censor everything, and I don't think actually bad language actually hurts anybody, and I don't think it really matters. But I think I want to allow people to play that game with their kids if they wanted to.
I mean, I'm really curious, what is your actual stance on the fact that kids these days, I mean, we, especially in Poland, we don't really have in the Central Europe the big media coverage of Peggy and of the fact that kids actually shouldn't play GTA 5 and they shouldn't play adult games. I think it's more developed in the US right now, and but still kids are playing the games meant for the adults. And do you think that it can actually be harmful? Or because we as kids, I don't know if you had this, I mean, you maybe talk with people like that, but we as kids, we played a lot of horror games and games made for adults, and we enjoyed them, you know, it was fun for us. But nowadays, when the games are more realistic, it can maybe do a bigger harm. And what is your stance on it?
It's interesting. And sometimes I feel people worry too much about that stuff because I think I was able to process that when I was a kid. But truthfully, they didn't. I mean, when I was playing when I was playing games as a kid, you know, the violence was that you were a square and you were taking an arrow and you're shoving it through a dragon's head that looked like a duck, and so it really wasn't that upsetting. And I think it's really, there's always like studies that talk about like, well, that gets into the whole like violence of video games. There's a lot of studies that say, oh, the violence affects them, and then there's another study that says, oh, it doesn't affect them. And I think in general, the approach I take with my own daughter is that we can watch scary stuff together. We watched the Hobbit movie together. She's only 6, but we watched it. She wasn't scared by those giant spiders at all. But the main thing was to talk about it while we were watching it or afterwards. We talked about all the stuff, and I think that helped her process it all. And I think just using it as a way to talk about things is a better way than hiding it from them, which might make them, you know. I mean, I think being exposed to that stuff and not talking about it with them could lead to them to have these kind of dormant fears and nightmares and stuff like that. But I think if you talk through it, you can, if you really explain early on to kids about make-believe and how the blood in the movie is ketchup or whatever, you know, I think if you teach them that ability to differentiate between fantasy and reality, I think they can survive playing the game.
Would you actually allow your kids to play the, for example, Peggy 18 games, or maybe you will allow him or her only to play the games that were released very, very long ago, or also the games that are released today? Is there a difference?
I mean, but part of me actually, I really love how bright and colorful and cheerful and happy games used to be. When we're, you know, in Mario and Sonic and that era of games, like there's part of me that just really misses, like, why were games used to be so bright and fun, and they're so dreary now in a lot of ways. But still, it's hard. Like I was playing Bloodborne early one morning last weekend, and my daughter woke up and she came into the room and I was like, oh God, there's no, you know, like Bloodborne, there's no save points, like there's no, you know, it's like I have a lot of souls right now and I can't get to a save point. What am I gonna do? And and then I was like, you know, this game isn't really that dramatic. I mean, it's not like there, you know, it's pretty abstract and it kind of feels like a goofy Halloween game in a way. Like it's not really. So I let her watch it, but then she got totally into it because she saw that doll character you talked to upgrade, and she was like, "Who's that lady?" And just and so now she wants to play Bloodborne all the time. But
okay.
But we watch. I mean, like, who knows? We played Never Alone together, and she, you know, if I'm playing as little fox, I think it's just as upsetting to her when that little fox falls in the water and drowns, and the Eskimo starts crying. I feel like that is like more gut wrenching to her than like some guy with a pitchfork stabbing you in Bloodborne. Exactly.
Do you actually wish for your kids to pursue a career in game development, or are you the kind of father that would like to make them the doctors?
I really believe that choice is up to them, to her to choose her own, like what she's into and what she's excited by. I definitely like playing games with her, and I feel like it's almost for my benefit more than her. I just want someone. My wife doesn't play games, so I like someone in the house who can play co-op games with me. So I'm looking out for me when I'm playing games with her. But I think it's I think games are great to play, and I think they can be this really enriching thing, and I like to play them with her and talk about them with her. And if she wants to go into game development, I would love to help her out. It's fun to watch. John Romero he posts on Facebook a lot of adventures of his son who's doing this game, Gunman Taco Truck, and like helping him. You can see him help him code it and like give him game advice, and his son is off and running and making games. And yeah, I would love it if she went into that. I would hate to think of her as being attacked by weirdos on Twitter, but other than that, I think game design is an awesome career to choose.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, and I personally can see that more and more girls are really into that. We have a lot of those projects that are really encouraging girls to go for the technical studies and study IT and go into gaming. So I think it's really improving. The situation is really getting better and better, and I hope for our kids it will be even greater to actually pursue a career in this industry. And we have another question from the
I see a
audience.
question right there. Someone says $3.3 million. Where did that money go, Lebowski? And it's great that we have the stream up because you can see it's right there on the screen. It went into Broken Age.
Exactly.
Every single dollar of it.
And we have a question. Yeah, exactly. Because you know what we
Games
did.
cost a lot of money to make, and I think that's one of the great things about making this documentary is that we can try and get that point across to people that a lot of people don't realize. How fast $3.3 million go when you're paying people health care and salaries, and they're expensive, as you know, as a game developer.
Exactly, and I gotta say that the Broken Age was the biggest. The amount of money you get via Kickstarter was the biggest one at the time. I think the only game that beaten you was actually Pillars of Eternity. I'm not sure if they were. I think they were actually after. And what really happened is we had this Q&A with Pillars of Eternity developer back when the game was released, and the interesting fact was that he said that even though they achieved the most of the money that they could really from Kickstarter, it was really the amazing amount, they had to pay from their own pockets to actually finish the game. And it's because, when you have all the IT guys, if you have all the artists, if you have the office to be paid for, then this money is really fastly melting. And did you actually had to put your own money or your own time and assets to actually do it, or was the crowdfunding and the Kickstarter the only thing you based on?
Oh no, we that's how we made the second half of the game, is that we paid for it ourselves. So Act One was the Kickstarter money, and then that's why we split it in half so we could sell it and then take that money and pay for the second half. And we also used our money from things like Brutal Legend PC and our Humble Bundle that we did, and because we got into independent publishing, we got to actually keep the money that we were making, and so we put all of our own money back into Broken Age to make the second half, just like those guys from Obsidian did.
Yeah, and I really think that like for one person it may be a lot when you say $1 million, for example, but for a gaming company,
if I had $1 million, I could do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but when a company has it, it's really a little. And right now, when I'm seeing a lot of people entering this game development industry, trying to do something from themselves, I attended some game design lectures back in the days, and our professor told us a very, very wise thing, that everyone who wants to make games goes to him at the first time and says, I want to make an RPG, the best MMORPG with the open world and with everything, and I want to do it in 1 year, and I have $30,000 and I will do it. So people have no idea how costly it is. And did you actually change your mind after when you were a youngster in the industry and you saw it all? I know that you had to learn a lot, but did you actually saw it coming, that it's really a tough business? Because I think it was a tough business back in the 90s.
To see how expensive or how hard it would be?
I mean, both of them, expensive and hard.
I mean, it never occurred to me that they were so expensive because the teams, they were really small when we first started. You'd have Monkey Island, it was like 3 programmers, 3 artists, and a couple more, audio. And the teams grew and grew and grew to like Brutal Legend being 60 people. And that being very small, that's kind of like an indie game version of a AAA game team, like a lot of AAA games out there have teams of 200 people or more, and you can see the credits at the end of Assassin's Creed or something. You finish a game like that, and you're just like, oh my god, who are all these? Is this basically everyone in the world? This is like every game of everybody in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So that just wasn't the way, and I feel like, it's interesting because like that's how you make that kind of game, and those kind of teams I have a lot of respect for, because those are big, huge, incredibly complicated things to make. But also, people have just as much fun sometimes playing a game that costs much, much less. So it's really, spending money isn't like the mandatory secret to making games. It can be just a great idea.
I have just one. Oh my god! I just fell down from a tree again. I gotta climb up, and I have another question from
You're playing that. That's right. Like, you're doing that so elegantly. I didn't realize you were the player right there.
Yes, I am playing all the time, and I'm trying my best because fortunately I remember the Act One, so it's not really a big.
Did you go left yet? What's in your inventory?
In my inventory, there's those things, so I have to actually. I know what I have to do. I have to go to the Harmony right now. I think to get the egg from him, and also give the second egg to the little birdie. So yeah, I think I'm doing fine.
You got what you need. Did you get your shoes? Yeah, you got your shoes.
Yeah, I have shoes. I have everything. I have it covered.
Thank you for calling the hitline.
I will probably ask you for some hints when I will actually go to Act 2 because I haven't got a chance to play it before, and I heard really, really big things about the difficulty in the Act 2. So I think I will need your little help during that. And I have one question highlighted in red by our moderators because we have wonderful moderators on the chat copying me the questions for you right now. So there's a question from the son of Uncle Jit again. How did you actually get Will from Tabletop to play as Curtis?
Wasn't anything really.
Will was actually in Brutal Legend. He was like one of the Lion White's kind of grunts in his army. Like he's like a Glam Hog number 4 or something really. Will is like just kind of a good sport about doing voice in video games. He likes to do that, and we, I think we knew him through a friend of a friend. Mm-hmm. And I did an interview with him once. Ron Gilbert and I did an interview for him when he was doing this kind of video podcast show years ago, maybe when the cave first started, and so we just had like a little bit of a connection there. Mm-hmm. And we were like, it was just turned out that he ended up playing Curtis the Hipster Lumberjack, which was a backer favorite, and I never saw it coming, but it turned out to be one of my favorite characters in the game. He just like his delivery of Curtis's strange position of being kind of sees himself as a great artist, but also really commercially minded. Mm-hmm. Will just pulled that off so well. So I was really grateful that Will was in it, and I'm just waiting for him to put me on that board game show of his because I would really clean up there.
I have a very interesting question there by the way. The Assets, I don't know, Dr. Chesset, I think that's the name. I've seen you post pictures of interesting fan-made things people have made of your game. There was even a Monkey Island play of sorts created by fans in Europe. What is the weirdest fan-made item you've ever received? Or item or fan art?
Weirdest. I mean, there's some. I've gotten some great. We got a paper mache head of Dr. Lobato's head.
Oh my god!
And it's still hanging up in her office. I think it was full of candy. It was like a piñata of Dr. Lobato's head. That was pretty nice. We've gotten a two-headed baby made out of bowling pins stuck together and glued, and lots of cookies. People have made custom Rubik's cubes, and. We have really nice fans. We have a wall of fan art in the back of our office where we have it all pinned up.
Are you actually pinning some more of the fan art?
Also, here's some great things that fans have made.
Whoa!
From
from Broken Age!
I believe her name was Ray Tracer, the person who knit these. They're really nicely made. I mean, they look exactly like the yarn pals from Broken Age.
Are you using
and they have this like...
Are you using them to do a hack attack from time to time? Like the hack attack they did on Shay.
Oh, the hug attack!
Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm feeling sad, I give myself a hug attack.
So cute.
Cheer up, Tim.
You should do it in their voice, though, in a very high-pitched voice. Because I remember that their voice was so high-pitched, it was
Elmo's runaway train!
Exactly.
A terrible thing to have happened to us!
So going back to the serious topics, I know serious ones, but Ekak is asking, Tim, if you could change one thing in the gaming industry, what would it be?
One thing in the gaming industry. I mean, one thing that's going on now, the level of discourse about games is really kind of, it seems like it's taking a turn for the worse. Like people are talking about things in a much less, much more toxic way. I feel like the talk about games is very toxic and very like the analysis of games. We were always kind of hoping it would get more and more intelligent and would lead to more and more intelligent games, and there would be this really kind of cycle of games and commentary about games, making games better and better. But it seems like there's just a lot of vitriol and a lot of just really like people not really acknowledging the humanity of the other person they're talking to when they come to talking about games. And I don't know what will happen with that. I really hope that improves over time, because I just think there's something about the internet and the way people act when they're being anonymous that just leads them to treat other people badly. And it's too bad, because there's so many great people in games. There's so many great people who play games. And I think most of them just want to have this conversation back and forth that is really uplifting and about encouraging each other to do better all the time. But, I think people have to relearn how to even just disagree about stuff in a polite way on the internet, because I think there's a way to be honest and just say, I don't like this or I like that and I disagree with you on this, but still talk about it in a way between two human beings that actually makes both people smarter in the end. And so I hope optimistically that the internet will gravitate towards that instead of the way it's going now.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think that there is a way to stop that? Because it's like being anonymous is really giving you a lot of chance to actually say whatever, and don't control the quality of discussion. Really, people are maybe not caring for that. And do you think that there is an actual chance to change that, or will it just get worse and worse because of the spread of internet?
Can you say again what you're saying about what you saying people wanted it not to be controlled or be controlled, or
can we change it somehow? Because the internet is spreading and more people are getting in, and they're getting to know how they can react, how they can be anonymous and get away with it. So will it change in the future, do you think? Is there a way?
Sadly, I feel like it's going to become more like people are going to build up walled gardens where they can hang out and not worry about those people. So it's going to be like more the internet, because of the behavior of some people, is going to become more segregated and become more, private. I think people are going to gravitate towards that. Maybe. I really hope it can be solved otherwise. Like, I just like to hope that the internet is kind of in a juvenile stage, because it's new, and we haven't really learned how to behave on it, and people haven't seen the downside of it yet, and people are started trying to figure out new rules for it and new the laws of engagement on the internet, and we'll hopefully learn how to be better about it, or it'll just kind of lose popularity. It can't really lose popularity since everyone's dependent on it now. But I think the main thing is just for people who love games to just. It's more about what you're for than what you're against, and just standing up and being a positive force for the things they love, and kind of accentuating those things and trying to set an example of how to have discussions with people of many different opinions on the internet in a productive way, and just go on making great games and try and make the best games we can every time.
Yeah, I actually wonder, do you remember the year or two, or the exact moment when the internet appeared and how it changed the game industry? Because I remember the times when, how the internet changed so far up to this date. When the internet actually appeared in my neighborhood, and I was plugging it into my computer, people, for my colleagues from school were like, are you crazy? You can get viruses from that. And they're like, it's only porn and viruses and bad people there. And it changed a lot since then. But do you remember how it affected your work when the internet actually became popular?
It was kind of like right after Grimm was when the internet that was the first game we had a website for. Mm-hmm. And I wrote this designer diary for that, and GameSpot, and it was really fun. And like the first initial rush of it, like making a website for Double Fine, it was the first time I ever talked to the community, and that was really great, and that was really a kind of game-changing thing for me. So I feel like the first 10 years of the internet were pretty positive for me in gaming, for sure.
That's wonderful.
And it definitely has us reacting more to what players are saying to us. Players are having an effect on the games a lot lot
I gotta say that right now in the game I am meeting one of my favorite characters, the hipster one, the lumberjack.
Oh. Here's Will Wheaton.
Yeah, Will Wheaton. He's absolutely amazing. And so while I will do the quest with him, there is another question from the audience. Do you use mainly your own imagination, or do you pick stuff from the real world, do some research, and then create stuff around it? What are you more comfortable with?
Wait, say that again?
Do you use mainly your own imagination, or do you pick stuff from the real world to do some research and then create stuff around it? What are you more comfortable with in your creative process?
I mean, I definitely pull things from everywhere. Like, experiences in life. I feel like you never know where ideas are going to come from, and I think that's what makes art good is when it's like I really believe in research. Like when I was talking about Peter Chan, and even if it's really mundane research about what the world is really like, I feel like that gets in your head and it makes you make specific, specific, realistic, believable characters. I think comes from finding really concrete things that come from the world, because sometimes if you tried to draw a bird from memory, I'm going to draw a bird from memory. For one thing, I can't draw, so it would be really horrible. But I would probably draw like, oh yeah, they have wings like this. It's kind of a very simplified version of a bird. But if I actually was looking at a real bird, I think I would actually catch a lot of nuances about the shape of its tail and its head and its coloring and stuff like that. That would make it better. And so I feel like looking at the real world for inspiration and reference is important.
We have a nice questions regarding the game development again, and this is actually a trick one. But in the current toxic environment, with people freaking out over everything, should one be afraid to publish an indie game now? Should people wait for the climate to end, or is this whole thing overblown?
I feel like it's you can't count on it going away. I think people have to learn to. I think all of us who have been exposed to it have kind of learned how it's not real. Like it's not. A lot of it is really overinflated, and it's a small group of people who are just very, very loud. And I think when I go to, that's why I like going to trade shows like PAX or anything where real people are interacting, and you see actual people, and then you realize, oh, that's right, they're all completely sane, and most people are really nice, and it's just kind of an illusion that people have managed to create, that there's this big, loud contingent of angry people. It's really small, and also, no matter what you do in life, there's going to be people who like it and who don't like it, and you have to learn to process that and not let it get to you. And it is hard. It's hard after doing it for like a million years, like I do. You still read like 20 nice comments, but it's the one mean comment that you'll think about the rest of the night, and you have to kind of train yourself not to do that and not to pay too much attention to it. I think there's a lot of this started when, remember Web 2.0, when people were like, this is where everyone put comments on everything and everything started going this way. And I think you see a lot of sites now that are, companies are actually getting rid of their forums and they're getting rid of that stuff. So some of that's kind of unfortunate, but I think it's a reaction to this that people are seeing that there's a downside to it. But I don't think there's any reason to not make your indie game. I think you have to be prepared for how to process feedback from all the voices that are on the internet. And one of those ways of processing it is you could ignore it. You could just not solicit it, or you could just not let it bother you.
Yeah, but it's really interesting to hear how you are tackling the critique, and as we all know, the reviews of Broken Age are mostly really, really positive, and then there are those negative comments that are coming mostly from people who didn't play the game. But did any of the critiques actually change your mind? And are you, for example, are you still in that pace of reading that? And hello.
Oh, that's Greg.
Hi, Greg. Nice to meet you.
We gotta go.
Oh, they're pulling me away to something else.
Okay. It's okay. So, do you have to finish soon?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, if you have to finish now, it's not a problem. I can just finish the Act 1 and show people some Act 2. But it was wonderful to talk to you, really.
It was awesome talking to you too, and your great community there, asking questions. Thank you for playing Broken Age.
Yeah, I hope people will buy your game after this stream, because this is really, really an amazing game. And if you haven't played this Act 1 before, guys, please do it, because it's awesome. So
That's awesome.
Tim, it was marvelous to see you, and we are really, really thankful that you joined the stream with us.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for playing Broken Age.
Thank you.
And nice talking to you.
Thank
See
you.
all you later.
See you. Bye.